10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. It is I, the one, the only Luke Skywalker Roberts, here on the program this evening. Tonight, we're going to be joined here on the program in the 8 o'clock hour by the one, the only, the Professor Rick Del Santo. For those who don't know who he is a member of the broadcast team for CPW and countless other promotions on the East Coast in the greater Connecticut area. He is also a writer and a podcaster for the Pro Wrestling Wire website. We'll talk about more of that here on the program here tonight. Tonight, we're going to have a great program. Again, I want to give a shout out to all of our viewers who are braving these brutally cold conditions here, not only in the greater bi-state area, but throughout the Midwestern United States. I know it's now starting to impact the East Coast as well. Very cold, very just brutally cold conditions. Want to make sure everybody's doing okay here this evening because it's going to be a great show. And of course, I would be remiss if I wasn't going to bring on my co-host, the man with the plan, the man from the other side of the great STL, the one, the only, the maestro, Jeremy Karp. Jeremy, my friend, how are you doing this evening on your side of the river in this wonderfully, brutally cold weather here in the St. Louis area? Right now, we're trying to get some technical issues here. Your microphone's not working, Jeremy. I don't know what the deal is here, but your microphone is not picking you up here this evening. Still not getting any audio from you. But I say we'll go ahead here. Jeremy's going to go ahead and take care of some audio issues. Tonight we're going to have a lot of great interaction. Again, make sure to share out the Wrestle Talk Podcast through all the social media outlets that you have. Hashtag WTP, hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling. Again, great show here tonight. We got a lot of great guests on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. We also have a lot of great sponsors for the Wrestle Talk Podcast. If there's any guests that you want to see on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, make it a point to put them in the social media or put them in the chat here tonight. We got a lot of interesting guests from across the country here, and those great guests have come a lot of times from the recommendations of the Wrestle Talk Podcast family. So right now here, we're going to see here, Maestro, I know we've got you here. Do we have video for you? Do we have, like I say, we're seeing here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just barely. Let me see if I can turn up my audio here. I hear you just barely. Let's see if maybe you can turn up your volume here a little bit. Are you there, okay, Maestro?
How are we doing?
You're still sounding very far away. I don't know what's going on here. We're going to go ahead here and, again, technology is great when it cooperates, ladies and gentlemen. But you know something? Tonight, one of the great things we're going to have is we're going to have an opportunity to talk all things pro wrestling. And I mean, again, when you look at the world of professional wrestling, we're getting ready to embark on the road to WrestleMania. And I mean, again, the Royal Rumble is less than 2 weeks away. You also have, of course, Saturday night's main event taking place this coming Saturday night. Several great matches that are going to be taking place. We also just got done with TNA Genesis. We also have had some pretty big shakeups in the world of AEW with New Japan Pro Wrestling from our good friends over at MLW as well. There's a lot of big news going on in the world of professionals. As a matter of fact, there's even some news we're going to hopefully talk about later this evening about the Game Changer Wrestling and some big things that have gone on in the last few days with GCW Game Changer Wrestling. Again, a lot of great things have been going on in the world of pro wrestling. And by next time we come live here on the program, we're going to have an opportunity to start the road to WrestleMania right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. And again, that's going to be a lot of great times here. Maestro coming back on the screen. Third time's charm, Maestro. Let's see if this will actually cooperate for you. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
We're still hearing you
there.
very, very faintly on my end. I don't know if the viewers are hearing you well, but you are very, very faint. At least we're getting audio, though. That is a good thing here. We're going to go ahead and kind of make things going here. Ashley Maestro, if you'd be so kind, while you're going ahead and get your audio taken care of, if you go ahead and throw up our sponsors without whom this Wrestle Talk podcast would not run each and every week. Jeremy's going to go ahead and get those audio bites taken, or sponsors running here across the bottom of the screen. The Wrestle Talk podcast. I'd like to thank all of our great sponsors: Retro Zone, Painter's Dream Productions, home of the one and the only Big Daddy P. Also, we have the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, which will be having its 2025 induction on Sunday, June 22nd. Interstate 70 Sports Media, home of the Maestro Jeremy Karp, Little Popeye Designs, where you can get those great Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers there in limited edition. Make it a point if you want to get one of those to contact the Wrestle Talk podcast. And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. And guys, again, we're having a great show here tonight. We're going to keep a positive outlook on things here. Jeremy, we're going to go ahead and see. Can you talk again, my friend?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can just barely hear you. I don't know. You know what, Maestro? I was just thinking about something here. And again, it's one of those technology things here. Let me hold on.
I think it's on you. At this point, I think it's on you, Luke.
Right now, as it stands here, the Night Owl keeps bringing us up to date here. And we're going to see what's here. Hold on one second.
They hear me just fine. If anything, they hear me loud and clear. So while you figure that out, I'm going to tell you all what is going on. Okay, so give me 1 second. I'm kicking Luke. I want to make something clear. You asked me earlier, Luke, how was it? How am I feeling on this side of the river? I am freezing. Okay, my underwear was sticking to my thighs as I was walking into work this morning. I got my girlfriend ready for work. I helped her. Got the kiddo ready for daycare. Yeah, it was -2 temperature. It feels like -50 outside. I'm freezing. So you want to know how I'm doing? That's how I'm doing as far as temperature goes. I'm doing great.
Well, Maestro, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not much better on my side of the river, but thankfully, of course, it's supposed to be getting a little bit better here in the next couple of days to take care of things here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. But you know something, Jeremy? While we go ahead and get this last little bit of audio taken care of, we're going to go ahead here real quick, as we do each and every week on the Wrestle Talk podcast, is we pay our respects and honor to the greatest country in the world. So at this time, if you would please go ahead, remove your caps, place your hands over your heart as we begin tonight's program, as we always do, with the national anthem. Jeremy, would you take it away, please? All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Roseanne bringing us on right now with what's going on here. Let's go ahead and we can get those sponsors taken care. We got them already taken care. We can go ahead and get them off the screen. Well, you know something, Carp? We're going to take care of things. Oh, wait a minute. No. She has a rap song with Tom McDonald.
Yes, she really does. And you know what the funny thing of it is the fact that it goes to prove that, I mean, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because obviously her singing hasn't gotten any better over the past 20 years.
Wow. I got to tell you, Maestro, that's definitely one to, I guess I'm going to have to check that one out as we go here. Right now, hold on one second.
Okay, well, Luke is trying to figure out his audio. Folks, we do got an amazing show in store for you tonight. Of course, we got something we need to legally patent, because it's famous here at the Wrestle Talk Podcast. That being, of course, our very own high spots we're going to be doing tonight. We have an amazing guest, that being, of course, Rick Del Santo. And I follow him all across social media. He's going to be talking to us about a lot of things in his world of professional wrestling. That's another thing I love about the Wrestle Talk Podcast. It's not just Missouri based. It's not just Illinois based. It's not just West Virginia based. It's not just Kansas. It is worldwide based. It is nationwide based. And that, to me, is what makes us the premier wrestling podcast out there. We're also going to have the snippets of truth. We're going to have a lot of great, and David Owen tuning in. David, thank you so much, as always, for tuning into the show. That's right. It is 7:18 here in the Central Time Zone, and that it is, oh, sweet baby mercy, it is 5 degrees. No, not doing it. Here in the St. Louis area, it is 5 degrees.
You know something, Jeremy? We got a lot of great things going on here on the program tonight.
Nope.
Beginning to wonder if it's my side that's the echo and not yours.
Oh, it is. I feel proud when it's not my fault. It makes me feel special about myself. Also, I want to say, oh, sweet baby Jesus. Okay. Folks, I just want to say also, we talked about where, all the amazing sponsors we have, but also be sure to follow us on our Wrestle Talk Podcast YouTube channel, on the Wrestle Talk Podcast on Facebook, Wrestle Talk Cast on Twitch. That's right. We're trying, and even go follow the Night Owl at Night Owl MX on X. Try saying that 10 times fast, because you're going to have a hell of a time doing that. But we got an amazing social platform, and it's only gotten bigger and bigger every single day. So I am definitely, and of course, Susie Haas telling Dallas Stevens to be nice. And we definitely have some cruel words coming in. Not cruel enough to where I can't say them on the air. But don't worry, there's always about 7 or 8 words that I'm not allowed to say on air. Meanwhile, we're going to check back in with our dear friend Luke Skywalker.
Hold on a second here, guys. I apologize, folks. I don't know what the issue is going to be here. Jeremy, are we good now?
No. How's it?
All right, we're going to try this again, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on one. All right, Jeremy, we're going to have to make do here again. We apologize for the technical issues here this morning. If it's morning, this evening, you know what, Jeremy? Let's put it this way. Let's get things rocking and rolling here. Let's get into the high spot segment here tonight on the Wrestle Talk Podcast as we get rolling here for our episode here tonight. Let's go ahead and hit it.
Okay, let me get my wonderful high spots.
Mic check, mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Yo, welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like lamb chops. We dog shop, coming through the screens of a laptop and non-stop like a running speakers of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. Like a clock flash, look like a belly flop. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast, now they know we about to start the show.
DJ Money always bringing us into
right.
those high spot segments. You know what, Jeremy? I can finally hear you. Everything is great. Everything is wonderful. You know something? Let's go ahead. We've taken far too much time. Let's go ahead and get into the high spot segment here. Let's get the first question up on the screen here this evening.
Okay, we are going to hit that randomizer. If it wants to. I will say when it... Oh, here we go.
All right. Question number one here in the high spot segment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see here on the bottom of the screen, Penta has officially landed on Monday Night Raw. How many super kicks would you rank the debut? Now, Jeremy, I'm going to level with you here. I have really enjoyed Penta with his time in AEW. I know he spent time in countless other promotions here in the country. I'm going to tell you right now, and I remember seeing someone, I can't remember who it was, but I remember seeing somebody saying something to the event of in his debut match against Chad Gable that he was given more mic time in the WWE than he was ever given in AEW, which it's kind of a scary thought because, I mean, Penta's a phenomenal in-ring competitor. And from what little we've heard from him on the microphone thus far, I mean, again, he's done very well considering the circumstances. I mean, I really am very impressed with what Penta has done thus far in the WWE. I would say super kicks wise, I'd give him a solid 3.5 super kicks. I think we could see more out of Penta, but I think right now we're just scratching the surface with him, and I'm totally fine with that. Maestro, what you think about Penta in the WWE?
Oh, I'm going to tell you right now with Penta and WWE. We're 2 weeks in, I believe. Yeah, 2 weeks. I'm giving this, excuse me, I'm giving this a 4.75. Just because, I mean, nothing's ever perfect out of 5. Because let me tell you something. And you have been watching wrestling a long time. Luke, you've said you've been in the wrestling industry 40 years, and you've been saying that for the past 10 years. Now, I'm telling you right now, you've seen a lot of debuts. Now, you remember the old WWF debuts back in the 90s when they would just be throwing jobbers at them, okay? I mean, hell, they did that when I was growing up watching wrestling. They just threw jobbers at these new debut guys, especially the ones that had a lot of hype surrounding them. And there'd be nothing special. It'd just be a dominant match. Okay, Penta's debut was against Chad Gable, and they put on a banger. Arguably match of the night, if it wasn't already a stacked card for that night's Raw. And I think what kept it from being perfect was I do feel the promo afterwards ran a little too long. I think it should have been short but sweet but dominant. But overall, the fact but that's the thing. And Susie, that is my point. Chad isn't a jobber. That's what you want to see. You want to see these big matches. Like, I didn't want to see Penta go out there and, okay, I'm just going to throw someone out there. Let's just say Apollo Crews. Okay, we're just going to throw in Apollo Crews. Or when was the last time Apollo Crews had a main roster match?
True.
Think about it. Okay.
How about this? How about him and Akira Tozawa?
Okay, Akira Tozawa. There's another guy who, usually is on the house show circuit, but he doesn't really have main show time. So instead, what do? They put out Chad Gable, phenomenal athlete, And what does he intend to do? Tear the house down. That is what you want to see. And look, our friend Gabriel Arsene says himself, 5 out of 5. I don't care what anybody says. And you know that look, like I said, fix the promo, shorten the promo. 4.75 for me. You can't get any closer to 5 without it being an actual 5.
Ooh, I guess I gotta agree to disagree with you a little bit here, and I don't think it's because of length of. I mean, you got to admit, and I will agree with you. He had a phenomenal matchup with Chad Gable, somebody who'd gone out there and wrestled 15 minutes, 18 minutes, something along those lines, and having to go in and conduct an interview right after a match like that. That takes a lot out of you physically, and it does take a lot out of you mentally. But you know something, and I know we're going to take care of it here. Let's go ahead and get another perspective. Let's go ahead and hit the music, because we're going to go ahead and have kind of a combination of a couple things here right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Let's get our thoughts and a little bit of snippet of truth, of course, from the one, the only Big Daddy P. So let's go ahead and hit the music and bring Big Daddy P on here on Wrestle Talk podcast this evening.
All right, Big Daddy P, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, my brother's from another mother.
We gotta ask you the question, Perry. Are you guys staying warm in your corner of the universe?
Freezing. My California blood can't stand it. But what am I going to do? Complain? Who wants to hear that?
Well, you know something, I gotta say, I thought that the Maestro was going to complain with me a little bit over that Penta rating I gave a few minutes ago. But I got to ask you, now that we have Penta in the WWE, Big Daddy P, what are your thoughts? I mean, we've had a couple different appearances by Penta thus far, and what are your thoughts thus far?
Well, I really wasn't familiar with him, which is it might sound crazy, but I just he somehow got out of my view, and the first time that I ever really watched him was on WWE. And it was just great to see. I love energy. I like a lot of the new moves. That's very important, man. Clotheslines, lariats, those are wonderful, and all the high spots, those are great. But every once in a while, when I see something different, I really enjoy that. I also love this new collaboration, man. God, if they would have done this 30 years ago, the wrestling business would be even further, And I understand why Vince didn't do it. I get it. Totally. But I think Penta is great. He's got great energy. His daughter had me crying. You can't help but look at that situation and go, aw, because he's been working so hard to get to this point. And then you get there and you either pick up the ball and you hit a home run, or you drop the ball and fall flat on your face. And his energy, his presentation, I think everything about him is good. Again, super kicks have lost their power. I'm sorry. And it's overused. Half of them leg slap, the other half don't. I'm starting to miss some of the WWE rules as far as, how you communicate what we're seeing. Funny, the first thing NXT tonight, Corey Graves, man, the first thing he says is how happy he is where he is. Well, you didn't say that the first time. Your tweet alone busted you out that you weren't happy. And now they sent you to NXT, which you think is a downgrade. But the fact of the matter is, it's just another brand. It's pro wrestling, man. I mean, God, TNA it's wonderful. We're so blessed. At a time like now, man, especially with WrestleMania in Vegas coming up, Royal Rumble seems like every month they're just pounding it out. And Netflix and Raw, I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying the whole new production and the whole new, those video, man, their video work was incredible then. Now with drones and the angles and the live feel presentation with what the heck is his name? The new guy.
Joe Test.
Yes, excellent, man. And even is doing this. And it's okay. He'll learn it. He'll get it. But again, Wade Barrett, the president, man. And I tried to watch AEW tonight. I DVR'd it. This, what was it? Maximum Carnage.
Mm-hmm.
I got into about, I think, the first slam onto the board with the barbed wire, and I just said, enough. I can't watch these guys do this to themselves, man. There's a lot, and it's funny. Jey Uso just he pulled an old Roman Reigns. Remember when Roman Reigns was first getting hot? His timing was so bad that he kept getting busted open. Well, Jey Uso is running into he did that for the first time on Monday. Busted himself up at the very end. I went, oh, now you know how Roman feels. But it's a great time to be in the business, man. That's, again, a shift change for the world. That's all I can say. A much needed one. More common sense, let's say.
Totally agree with you, Big Daddy P. I mean, again, it's one of those where when you look at professional wrestling back in the day, you look at the territory idea of everybody had their own little section of professional wrestling, and now being able to see some of these promotions come together and really start showcasing the best of wrestling across multiple avenues really is a true, it's an outrageously great experience for the wrestling fan. I agree with you 100%. On that. And something else, Big Daddy Piano, we were talking before we went live on the program today. When you were talking about what you were thinking about for your snippet of truth tonight, you kind of let us know a little bit ahead of time. But when you looked at that, I see a lot of what you were talking about there really tying into one of the things that was really pressing on your mind today. So I want to go ahead and give you the floor here because I think you have a really powerful message tonight with your snippet of truth. So let me go ahead and turn things over to you.
First of all, there's no accidents. There's no coincidences. His timing is absolutely perfect. Some would agree and some would think that, well, we've dodged a bullet. America's dodged a bullet. Some would say, no, we're about to take a bullet. But guess what? This is old news, man. Even though to us it's new, to the Lord, it's not new at all. Generation after generation, king after king, leader after leader. I want change. I don't want change. Make America great. No, don't make America great. Well, now that it's over, and now that he's going to do exactly like he said he was going to do, maybe we'll get a little bit more order. And I think as a nation, first of all, as a nation, we are the light of the world. I didn't write it. God says it. We are the light in the midst of darkness. It's darkness because the God of this world, who God himself gave control to Satan to have the earth. Well, how do you think he's doing? But see, to God, it's not new. So I want to encourage you today because it's one scripture. It's one. Let me tell you, if you've ever wondered why, maybe the Bible is just filled with a bunch of old stories, and it's not really something that you can apply today. Well, let me tell you, not only is that not true, but what is true is the fact that, well, we all have an opportunity to represent our Creator. He made us all different for a reason. We're not the same. None of us. We all have different things. And I think just within this message, and again, it's one scripture. It's Proverbs 16, verses 12 and 13. Now, I didn't write this. So after I read it, if you want to throw a stone at me, throw it. It's okay. I love you. I'll duck. I'm fast. Whoa. It says it's an abomination for kings to commit wicked acts, for a throne is established on righteousness. Righteous lips are the delight of kings, and he who speaks right is love. Now, in that first part, it is an abomination for kings to commit wicked acts. Now, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, well, how do you define what's wicked? And if it happens to be according to the world, you're going to get one answer. But if you look at the Bible, they're going to say something different. And then, God forbid, if you look at man, they're going to tell you something even more about what God says. But really, you only know what God says because of what he says. And here he's telling us that there are kings who are going to, or leaders are going to commit things that, well, we're going to agree with, and some we're not. Now, God shed his grace on America, and he did that. And one of the things that every single hour of the inauguration, because I watched the whole thing, I had to, and every message that seemed to come through was our love for God. And because we recognize that God gave us this place, that we should take care of it, and we should take care of one another. And if you're going to fault Trump for one thing, it is going to be this. He's going to use everything that he has to try and make life for us better. Now, how you define better is subjective to where you're at. Because if you're out in the world and you're way far away outside of the United States, you have a much different life than you do here in the United States. So I just want to encourage you that in the midst of all the stuff that's going on, don't forget, because this next part, look at this, the last part, righteous lips are the delight of kings, and he who speaks right is loved. Now, if what is coming out of your mouth is love, then it's going to encourage somebody. But if it's not love and it's hate, there lies the problem. And there are many of you that are hating right now. And maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, someone else was hating. And there's always going to be hate until that special time. So my snippet of truth tonight is to remember yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is called the present. It's a gift, and you should treat it as such. Pay close attention. There's not a single thing that takes place on this earth that God doesn't see. So wouldn't you want to do things because you appreciate that he gives you life? Just something to think about. But in the meantime, he's given us professional wrestling, which tells the story of good and evil. Does that sound familiar? I think it does. Sometimes evil wins, sometimes good wins. But in the end, what's the end result going to be? Truth. And it's the truth that sets us free. Remember, within your life, if you've got things going on in your life that you don't like, just search for truth. And the moment you search for truth, the moment you take a little step forward and trust him, he comes forward and you'll never forget it for as long as you live. Trust him today. Know that he knows exactly what's going on. Because remember, one of two things are going to happen. You're going to get through this little sermon, or we're going to go and be with him. Either way, I look at that as we all win. So you have a choice. If you live in America, you can say what you want and you can believe what you want. I happen to believe that Jesus Christ is the only way because that's what the Bible says. I didn't write the Bible, but it also says that I need to love you and not judge you and be compassionate. And it's hard because you want everybody to see and hear and know what it is that you found. So just keep trusting him. I'm thankful that he gives us this opportunity to talk to people about him, because there are a lot of people who are without hope, man. It's hard. I mean, they're struggling right now. They think there's no hope. There is hope. Each other. We're here to help each other. So continue to love. And if you can just remember that we now have to watch pro wrestling on like 7 different channels now. There's your truth, baby.
Well, you know something, Big Daddy P, as we're taking care of things here, that is one thing. And again, I feel very fortunate here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. We can have the opportunity to talk about things, talk about life, but also the idea of where, when it comes down to it, everybody has the right to their own opinion, has the right to whatever they feel in their heart. And I 100% agree with the idea that, as you said, is that each person looks at things in a different way. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is we need to take care of one another. We need to keep looking out for one another, because at the end of the day, like I said, we're a group of people. Everybody knows who's constantly watching out, who's constantly seeing everything going on. And again, your snippet of truth was right on point. Before we let you go, I got 2 more things for you, Big Daddy P. I know you're a very busy man. Number one, as we always do each and every week, we're going to go ahead and turn things over to you.
I am never too busy to be available, ever. Even when I'm busy, if it's something that's of importance for someone's life or what needs to be done, always know that I'm here.
Most definitely. But I got to ask you this question here real quick, and I know it's going to be another high spots question we're going to talk about. I have to ask you, which one are you looking more forward to? Saturday night's main event this coming Saturday, or the Royal Rumble in 2 weeks?
Well, definitely more the Royal Rumble, but that's only because, and this is a very tough subject. You know, there's 2 things that you usually don't talk about at Thanksgiving dinner at the table: religion and politics, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's important that we need to remember who came before us, right? I mean, if you go back before the 80s and you're looking at the 70s, look at the professional wrestlers that we had and the direction it was going. And then one Vincent Kennedy McMahon had an idea. Everyone told him he was crazy. You can't do that. That's going to piss everyone off. No, it's going to make them millions and millions of dollars, whether they know it or not. If the question is do they have the foresight to be able to see that? And I think that was where we now run into a situation where professional wrestling is now sports entertainment in the form of pro wrestling. It's not one or the other. And I think that's kind of a perception issue that people have because there was always a fight about what do you call it? Because one man set a rule saying you can't say this, but you can say that, but you can't say this. So, you know, I just know that we have more than enough entertainment out there to keep us busy between that and football, because now we're getting ready to Super Bowl. But Royal Rumble is going to be great. Nice surprises. There'll be a few. I thought last year's really kind of didn't do much for me. So, because I already knew who was going to win. It's going to be great to see Jordan Grace. I see she got extensions.
Mm-hmm. You know something too, Big Daddy P? I got to ask you this. I think we talked about it before too. Wouldn't it be good to see potentially, can't say it would be, but to see somebody the likes of Stacks in the Royal Rumble?
He's waiting. But see, here's the thing, man. See, it's just like our relationship with God. We don't know exactly what God's plan is. We know he has a plan, but we don't know what it is. I know Stacks has a future in WWE. He's got the determination. He's got the passion. He's got the love for the business. Those 3 things, man, I remember when he came to do a show for us at 127 Pro Wrestling, and him and another wrestler, Dylan McQueen, were in the ring warming up. And boy, Dylan hit him, I think, with an elbow on his eyebrow, busted him open. He came up to me, he says, "Boss, I got to go to the ER." He said, "But I'll be back for my match." I said, "Okay." And I had to back up just in case, you know what I mean? But he came back, he worked his match. Man, do you think I'll ever be able to get him for $30 again?
Probably not.
I don't think so. He was just out.
Probably not.
He's doing a lot of social media, trying to get to jail till he can get a belt. It's a little gimmicky. I didn't realize who his girlfriend is, but now I know.
Well, like I said, Big Daddy P, before we let you go, the other thing we need to do is we need to take care of a little bit of business. So once again, we're going to turn things right back over to you to give us one last little word of wisdom here before we move on here tonight with the Wrestle Talk podcast. So once again, Big Daddy P, the floor is yours.
Well, I think what's most important right at this moment has to do with prayer, because we have an opportunity, and I can even be thinking right now something that I want God to know, but I'm saying these words out of my mouth at the same time. He hears and sees and knows all. So there isn't like a formula for the perfect prayer. Now, if you happen to watch the inauguration and you saw that pastor brother knock that prayer out, it was one of the cool. I was so glad to see people embracing the love of God that they have. They're like afraid to be passionate. And I think if we're going to have a real relationship with God, we need to be real enough to know that he's there anytime we need him. Even when we think we don't need him, he will give us reminders that we do need him, because we only have so much strength. I mean, okay, yes, he gave us a gift, right? He gave each of us a gift. Some can talk, some can pray, some can feed, some can eat, some get money. And I just think that the ability to communicate with God is not as technical as it needs to be. So we're going to petition heaven on behalf of all those who don't have the energy to speak it out themselves. And I think that's what the power of prayer really does. The power of prayer is the Holy Spirit within you communicating with God. It's a love session. It truly is a love session. If someone you love and someone you care about is in front of you and they're talking and their words not only matter, but you're excited to hear them, when you have that kind of relationship with somebody, then you have an advantage of living a very happy and joyful and peaceful life. The problem is we're without peace. There's a lot of distress, and people think that they can get peace from the world, and they can't. Peace only comes from the Lord. It is a fruit of the Spirit. The only way you can have and receive that fruit is to have the Spirit. Well, how do you get the Spirit? Well, you got it. The only real true requirement to get the Spirit is to apply faith. When you hear what God did, and if in your heart, it's kind of like the Grinch story. Where do you think they got the Grinch story from? They took it from there. It's the same concept. His heart, he was so living in the world and so a part of it that he forgot about the goodness and kindness of God that exists. And I just think that as we petition heaven right now for those who haven't, this is our time. And let's use it wisely. You don't have to say it outwardly. If you have thoughts and fears and concerns, you share it with the one who knows how to fix them. I mean, if you want to be trained to be a professional wrestler, would you go to a trainer that wasn't a professional wrestler? No, you go to someone who trained the best. So he wants to use us as his very best to encourage all the people that are hurting, because today we might not be hurting. Today might be a good day. Tomorrow might be not so good. And so you'll remember what you did the day before, and then maybe you'll turn to him once again. So let's pray. Father God, we thank you so much for your goodness and grace and all that you continue to do. I thank you for Wrestle Talk. I thank you for the fact that you keep this technology going. You keep the conversations going. You keep the love for this business increasing. I don't think there's ever been a time in the history of this country that's now 250 years old this year that pro wrestling has been extended out as far as it has, and the money that's being made to provide an income for those who get paid to do what they love to do. Thus, they haven't worked a day since they started doing it. That could be a year ago or 15 years ago. But we thank you that you continue to allow us to enjoy this wonderful sport to put smiles on people's faces, to get people riled up and fired up and give them some emotion. People can sit there sometimes and you don't know they're having a bad day, but a wrestling match could change that in a second. So I thank you, Father, that you continue to use wrestling within our lives. I thank you that you continue to protect the United States of America. And we want to pray for everybody who is not within the United States of America. I know that sounds silly, Lord, but you know why I'm saying that. Because we live in a country that has freedoms that many don't have. And I thank you that you've made that possible today. And I ask that those that are our enemies, those that have things against us, we know that your plan can't be thwarted. So we know that you're going to protect us. We also know that you let things happen sometimes, and we might not understand why. We might not know what the future holds, but I know you hold the future. So I thank you so much for my brothers and sisters here who have gathered together, not just for church, not just for wrestling, but to hear from you. And I thank you for using Snippet of Truths to do it. What a wonderful blessing and privilege that we can encourage one another with your word, because it's your word that's alive and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword. And that's what we need today. We need your word to cut us open and allow you to have your way with us, that we can bless and encourage someone else. And I thank you so much, and I love you. And I ask these things in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, in whose name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Well, Big Daddy P,
or no?
I think we are ready to rock and roll. I think everything is awesome. And again, Big Daddy P, real quick, to those of you said something a minute ago, if anybody ever wants to reach out to you or communicate with you, I know that you're on our sponsors list. I know that people see you each and every week here, but if they wanted to contact you via social media, how could they do that?
Perry Hartman. If you just Google Perry Hartman, I apologize for some of the things you might see. I have a past, but I don't live in it. My present is much better than my past in some ways and different in others. Or call 931-304-1359. 1359. It's on 24 hours, 7 days a week. If you get my voicemail, you're going to be encouraged, but I will call you back if you get it. Otherwise, I'm going to answer.
Very true, Big Daddy P.
You never know when someone might need prayer, man. You never know. So if you didn't write that down here, 931-304-1359. Use it or lose it. I don't control it, but the love is there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the one and only Big Daddy P right here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Perry, we will talk to you on the next edition of the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
God willing, until next time.
All right, we're going to go from Big Daddy P here. We've got another special guest here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. He's been waiting for quite a while. He's a man that I consider to be a very close friend, and he is also the CEO of the FWWC. So let's go ahead and bring him in, the one, the only, Dewan Mills. Dewan, are you there? On 1 second here. There he is, the CEO representing here tonight on the program. How you doing, my friend?
For starters, mic check, mic check. Can you hear me?
Hey, we can hear everybody good now. It's one of those things.
That was the biggest thing, dog. Like, when that thing first came on, I'm like, okay. Oh, let me get my camera adjusted. Hold on. We'll adjust. I'm having technical difficulties myself. Okay, here we go. So when that thing first came on, I'm like, yo, I can't hear it. I'm having issues with the hearing. So I can be heard good, right?
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. And you know, one thing that's got to be heard tonight, CEO, is I believe Kingdom Chaos is coming up here in a very short amount of time. And I know you got some information. You got a lot of people needing to know some lowdown as it relates to the FWWC. So if we can, real quick here, Jeremy, I know we just got the graphic here a few moments ago. It is official, as they would say. We've got the graphic right here. So CEO, Mr. Dewan Mills, you go ahead and talk to us a little bit about Kingdom Chaos and the FWWC coming up real soon.
So let me kind of break this down. So in the past, as the official booker of the FWWC, That is booker for the matches on a weekly basis and booker for the matches on pay-per-views, or PLEs as we call them now. I have a certain way that I do things. I usually let in, like we do in the real wrestling world, they let the competitors know what's happening, what's going on, match cards, things of that nature. Communication is huge with me. But I left everybody in the dark for this particular reason, for this particular event. Number one, it is the first event of 2025. We have been on vacation since last December, respectfully, to have time with our families and for the holidays. So this card that is being dropped, that is being seen right now, is being seen for the first time by anybody except who I sent it to. And I did that because I want an element of surprise. I want people to say, oh my God, this is going to be great. This is going to be amazing. Holy crap. This is going to be a great pay-per-view. This is going to be a great premium live event. FWWC Kingdom Chaos goes down Saturday, February 1st. Now, of course, one match that you guys already knew about, the FWWC tag team titles will be on the line. That is House of Horrors. Our current champions will be defending against none other than Hoss Mafia, our FWWC hardcore champion, longest reigning champion currently here in the FWWC, and BADD, that is Badass American Diva. She is our current FWWC international champion. Those titles, or should I say the tag team titles, will be defended. However, the other titles, which is the hardcore and international, will not be defended. It will not be title for title. Kind of had to talk with the BOD. Not the right time to do that right now, but we're going to see some tag team action. That's Saturday. But a quick caveat, as you can see, kind of small print. Jason Curtis, who has returned to competition here in the FWWC, will be the special enforcer, a.k.a. the muscle for this match. Now, moving on, something very, very interesting. And for you guys that are watching, as a booker, I tend to put things in the hands of champions and individuals in the FWWC. I believe in, competitors, just like in the real, professional wrestling world. You put two people together, they come up with their ideas, they mesh their ideas together, they have a good relationship, you have great matches. So in the past, I've usually put, as it relates to title shots and things of that nature, in the hands of the champions. I'm not doing that this time. I'm not doing that for this pay-per-view. There will be a 6-individual FWWC Battle Royal at FWWC Kingdom Chaos. Out of those 6 individuals, whoever scores the top 3, top 3 scores. As you guys know, we make picks for our pay-per-views. Let's say the first competitor scores 20, then the next competitor scores 19 and 15. Those 3 individuals will have the ability to pick what title they want to compete for at FWWC Universe Mania. That is the Warriors Heart title, that is the World Heavyweight title, and that is the Spartans Heart Championship. Whoever scores it, so let's say let's say Skywalker, you score 20. You get to pick out of those 3 top titles first. The second individual who scored second pick second, and then the last person gets whatever's left. But this is one of the first times that I've left chance in the hands of the competitor, not the champions. Again, in the past, I've talked to champions, hey, who you want to work with? Who you want to work with? Who you think is a good person that deserves a shot at your title? This time, just like they do in the WWE for Royal Rumble, you score in the top 3, you get an opportunity to stamp your way to FWWC Universe Mania, and you can pick from those top 3 titles. Third match that we got. Oh, and let me talk about the competitors. List of competitors, amazing competitors. Remy Ricks, former heavyweight champion. Daniel Grimm, former Warriors Heart champion, former multi-time champion here in the FWC. We also have, Bishop, a guy that I have a personal relationship with. I think we're cousins, not sure, but he's from the good state of Arkansas. Bishop has had an amazing run in the past. He'll be involved in that battle royal. And none other also than Marcus Mayhem, also a multi-time champion. But 2 newcomers will be involved in this match who came from the FED, that is our fantasy, that is our FWC developmental program here. New guys get involved in the group. You think you got what it takes. You think you want to, brush up your skills. You go to the FED, see what you got. Those 2 individuals are none other than Rage and Taylor Marie, who just got bumped up to the main roster last year by none other than Hardcore Hoss. Those 6 individuals will have the opportunity to compete for a FWWC title at Universe Mania if they score on the top 3. Moving on, champion versus champion. That is none other than Moby Lee, our current world heavyweight champion here in the FWC, and Gabriel Arsene, our current Warriors Heart champion here in the FWC. Those two are going to be competing non-title, but champ for champ, our two top champs in the group. And last but not least, this is going to be news to him. We all got to have a host, Luke. We all got to have someone that's going to call the show. We all got someone that's going to make sure the show runs smoothly like you do damn near every week for the Wrestle Talk podcast. Our current FWWC Spartans Heart champion, Ace, the man who runs the place, will be hosting this pay-per-view. This pay-per-view and this poster will be posted in the main group. I put the chat together, but Luke, I'm excited. This is the first event of the year. We might have a challenge maybe the Monday before the actual pay-per-view, but for now, this is the card. This is what's going down, and I will communicate now with everybody, and this is going to be crazy, baby. First pay-per-view, first FWC pay-per-view of 2025. It's already going down. It's going to be hot.
Well, Dewan, I'm going to tell you right now, the opportunity here, that six-way matchup, the opportunity where, I mean, again, you've got two that recently came up from the FED. Now, imagine what it would be like if you come up from the FED, and I'm just going to throw this one at you. You know off the top of your head, the two that you spoke of, Rage, and it was Taylor Marie, when the newest person was brought up to the main roster. Do you remember when that was?
That was in December. Right before our break, around our break.
So imagine what it would be. It would be in December. You're just getting out of the FED and moving up to the main roster. And by WrestleMania, by Universe Mania, you could be the FWWC heavyweight champion. I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah, all the Warriors Heart, all the Spartans. Now, I will add this, and I'll communicate with them. If you actually get your spot, like they do in real wrestling, everything's subject to change. You have to maintain the program. You have to keep it entertaining. If you choose the Warriors Heart champion, if you choose to compete against it, you got to maintain that. And you got to maintain that from the time you win that spot and choose that spot all the way to April. And just like in, wrestling, look at Cody's story. We look at that story for 2 years. 2 years. We were invested in Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. For 2 whole years, we watched him go down, and at WrestleMania 40, he finished the story. So if Cody and Roman can do 2 years, you can do 2 months maintaining with your competitor. It's easy. It's nothing. We got this. We're professionals. We're the best fantasy wrestling world in the group, baby. We got this.
And again, Jawan, it's a great opportunity. And when you look at this card, I mean, again, you've got our broadcast colleague Gabriel Arsene, non-title. In kind of a champion versus champion matchup. I mean, again, from top to bottom, Kingdom Chaos really has a lot of potential to be, I mean, again, first event of 2025. And again, you're not leaving any stone unturned for this event. And again, it's all going to lead to Universe Mania in April. And I'm going to tell you, just like the road to WrestleMania, there's a lot of bumps in the road, a lot of twists and turns on the way to Universe Mania. And again, for more information, follow the FWWC on social media. Again, lots of great things. One other thing, too, before I let you go, CEO, I do believe every Thursday evening, right here on all these great social media outlets, the FWWC tonight, is that going to be making its return?
We're going to get that kickback off. I've been having conversations with none other than the Night Owl concerning that to find a permanent host and a good slot time. That will be coming back soon, sooner than you think. But there are conversations about that. Just got to get the, just like we had to schedule Wrestle Talk and figure stuff out, which, by the way, y'all have amazing organization. Folks, let me tell y'all something. Conversations every day. Professionalism every day. Trust me, these guys and myself work they asses off to make sure that every time the Wrestle Talk podcast comes on your screen and you're watching it, shit's running right. Now, sometimes there's technical difficulties. It is what it is, but I can tell you right now, the preparation is everything. And all these guys, Luke, Jeremy, everyone, Hoss, everyone's a professional here at the Wrestle Talk podcast. Big Daddy P, all y'all do an amazing job, and I am pleasured to be here that you give me this opportunity and time to grace your presence.
Well, something, Jawan, again, you and I have been friends for many years. I mean, I know there's been plenty of times when you've made the trip down to St. Louis. I myself made the trip up to Kansas City. And again, when you talk about the professionalism, not just with the Wrestle Talk podcast, but with the FWWC, with everything that's brought forward, with the Essential Conversations, with all the other things under the Essential Enterprises logo, it's one of those ideas of where you're not going to get a bad event. You're not going to get a bad show because everybody brings their best each and every time. And again, while the Wrestle Talk podcast is there, the FWWC has been right alongside for the ride. And if you enjoy professional wrestling, and if you want to take it to the next level, check them out on Facebook, check them out on social media, the FWWC. They're always looking for new members, and who knows? You could win a championship. You could win multiple championships. It just depends on how hard do you want to work to show that you are the best in the FWWC.
Damn right. All right, guys, I'm going to let you get out of here, man. Actually, NXT is on. I'm checking this out. It's pretty wrestling on 20. Well, I don't know what y'all local channels. Well, technically, what would be y'all local? Do you guys get the CW?
I think 11 still. Would it be still 11 for if we had kids? Because I watch on YouTube TV for the CW.
Gotcha.
But it's on 11.
Yeah, it's on 29 11. Here in Kansas City. So it's on right now.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the CEO, Dewan Mills, joining us here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, FWWC on all forms of social media. We'll see you next episode, Mr. CEO, right here on the WTP.
We out, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be joined here in just a couple minutes. Hey, you got to admit, Jeremy, from where we were to where we are now, that was a very big swing and turn here when it comes to the world of professional wrestling. But you know something? Yeah, we're going to be joined here in just a few minutes by our guest. I do believe that he is in the green room. I'm not mistaken, Jeremy?
He's in the green room.
He's in the green room. All is good. Like I said, we're going to have an opportunity. Rick Del Santo, I mean, again, is a man. I had an opportunity to be on Pro Wrestling Wire just a few short weeks ago. And if you get an opportunity, not only enjoy the Wrestle Talk podcast, but make it a point, check out ProWrestlingWire.net. A lot of great things. Got a lot of great interviews. I know, matter of fact, I'm talking about, I believe the last one I was listening to was, I believe it was Bobby Blaze, a man who used to be the former Smoky Mountain Wrestling the TV champions, whether it was the Beat the Champ segment. And again, it was really a great thing. Now, Maestro, I know we're going to have Rick join us here in a couple minutes. But I think we got time here. We got a little bit kind of out of sorts with the tech issues at the top of the show. But let's go ahead here real quick. Let's throw one more High Spots question out there before we bring our featured guest on the program. All right, here we go here. Ooh.
Oh, thank God for the randomizer, because I've wanted to say something about this.
Is Hulk Hogan really the one to promote Saturday night's main event after being booed at the Raw debut on Netflix?
Hang on.
Hold on, Jeremy. I'm just gonna level right now here, and again, the randomizer is 100% totally randomized. I'm gonna tell you, I really think in the last couple of years, I mean, again, Hulk Hogan for years was the idea of train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins. But I'm gonna tell you right now, before the events of the last few years, I don't think Hulk Hogan was the guy to go with anyway. I think there's a lot of other individuals who could be be much more of the voice of promoting something like Saturday night's main event. Even with the contract signing, maybe have Shawn Michaels being more of the voice of the product. Now, Jeremy, I'm gonna level with you. I had to step out when we were discussing a few of these topics.
Okay.
I mean, we do have a kind of a general idea as to what's going on here. But all I got to say right now is I heard that for the first time in a long time that you got on a tangent and you just started going. So, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a second here. I'm going to step back and I'm just going to let you go, my friend, because I know you got a lot to talk about when it comes to this question. So, Maestro, I'll let you have the screen. I'll let you have the audio. But this is all yours. I know this is a question that's very much on your mind.
Okay, so let me say this in the best way possible. Okay, obviously Hulk Hogan don't give a damn about me, and that's fine. Hulk Hogan, this is his political ideologies, and this is mine. He's on the far right. I'm, left side. And we all know about Hulk Hogan's history when it comes to allegations of racism. Hell, we all know the tape. And for the two of you out there that don't know about the tape, know all of the words that were said over on this tape, because the Wrestle Talk podcast episode 507 will be episode of the Wrestle Talk podcast, and I don't want to do that. But let me just make this perfectly clear. Okay, this guy has definitely talked about. God, how do I say this? All right, there we go. Look, there's been a lot of accusations that Hulk Hogan's a straight up racist and doesn't like black people. That's the best way I can say it. And AJ's over here saying he blames it on the woke WWE fans in LA that booed him. No, I blame it literally on the audio tapes with Hulk Hogan's voice where he drops the N-word, mind you, with the hard R, in regards to Brooke Hogan and her relationships. Also, Brooke Hogan, congratulations on having twins. I know Hulk Hogan is glad that they're white. And it's amazing to me that they would choose to have Hulk Hogan be the one to try to promote Saturday Night's Main Event. I understand why. He's synonymous with Saturday Night's Main Event, has been for decades, all the way from the beginning, the very first one, up to until the one in 2006, building up to the feud against Randy Orton. He was a big part of it. But guess what? When you're coming out and you're Make America Great Again, or you Keep America Great stuff, and you're promoting your Real American beer, which he wore attire for heading out there to the arena in LA. And there's another thing, and Susie brings it up. While cheating on his wife with one of Brooke's friends during the video, he's an adulterer. He, there's just a lot of things that he's accused of fabricating, a lot of issues of his life, that he fabricated having an experience with a terminally ill child from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's just amazing. And don't get me started on the whole sex tape thing and the estranged wife of Bubba the Love Sponge. I'm not getting into that. This is strictly on all the racist allegations towards Hulk Hogan. And and let's say the tape didn't exist. Okay? That means you still don't have Hogan be the representative, because the allegations, especially in today's society, allegations are enough to end it. But it's more than just allegations. There's proof. There is a literal tape recording where he says the N-word with the hard R. And it just blows my mind. Yes, Hulk Hogan was the biggest star of the 80s. He's one of the biggest. He's probably the most well-known wrestler of all time. And he's, one of the most iconic wrestlers of all time. But guess what? You can be an iconic figure in pop culture and still be a racist asshole. And honestly, kind of that's where we're at with the whole Hulk Hogan thing. Yes, the man's in his 70s. Yes, he was in an immense amount of pain walking out there because of all his back injuries. But should Hulk Hogan be the wrestler to promote Saturday Night Main Event after being booed at the Raw on Netflix? No, he should not. There is a bunch of wrestlers I could think of that are not even active that I would put at the top of the list. Hell, I would even go to AEW, and I'd rather have Adam Copeland at this point. You could have Ric Flair. You could have Stone Cold Steve Austin. You could have The Rock. You could have John Cena. There are so many names that you could have, hell, you could have Triple H himself promote it. But I'm sorry, as synonymous as he is with professional wrestling and as iconic as he is, just because on the basis of everything that is wrong with his character, Hulk Hogan should not be the one to promote. Because if that Monday night debut episode on Netflix proved anything, it's that in 2025, the fans have had enough of Hulk Hogan. Luke, that's what I have to say about it.
Wow, Jeremy, I think, like I said, when it came down to it, you said how you feel. That's one of the things we talked about earlier on in the program. The Wrestle Talk podcast always allows people to share their thoughts, their ideas, and their beliefs. And again, right now, I know for a fact that it's going to be a pretty hot button topic. And I know something right now, we're going to have an opportunity here to keep things rolling. We're going to have a very special guest here on the program. He's a man who I've known now for the better part of about 6 weeks. I actually met him through our good friends over the AIWF. And one thing led to another, and had an opportunity to speak with him right over the holiday season. And since that point in time, I've got to say he's been a pleasure to talk with, very knowledgeable. He's one of those individuals you can talk old school wrestling with, you can talk contemporary wrestling with, you can talk podcasting with, you can talk about independent wrestling with, you name it. If there's anything revolving around the world of professional wrestling, this man is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information, and he is going to share that knowledge here with the Wrestle Talk podcast family. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, it's my esteemed honor and privilege to welcome my broadcast colleague and the man that you can catch through ProWrestlingWire.net. Let's go ahead and hit the music for our guest this evening, the one, the only, the Professor, Rick Del Santo. All right, Rick, I have to, actually, I got to, should I call you Rick or should I call you the Professor? Because I got an opportunity since the last time we talked. Which one would be more respectful of you?
You know, Rick is fine. Professor's cool too. But I want to thank you. That was the greatest introduction I've ever been given in the history of introductions.
Hey, it's one of those, man. I have to say, over the course of the last few weeks, when we've had the opportunity to talk, I mean, this guy here is a wealth of knowledge, but also he's a very personable individual. And we had an opportunity to talk. And if you have a chance, ProWrestlingWire.net, they do have the podcast that Rick and I had a couple weeks ago, and we talked for 55 minutes, and it really seemed like it was like maybe 2. And there's a lot of great things to talk about. And I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to this interview because one of the things we look at is you've got a lot of knowledge and experience in the New England area, talking about places like Connecticut, Massachusetts, and that part of the country. And I know for a fact a lot of the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast don't have an opportunity to follow a lot of those promotions. I mean, we've got people down in the Southeast. We've got a lot here in the Midwest. We've got a couple out in California. We got a couple out in Washington as well. But my first question is this, Rick. We didn't have the chance to really talk about in our last interview. What drew you to the world of professional wrestling? I mean, you've got a ton of information, a ton of knowledge, but what actually drew you to professional wrestling?
It was the first time I saw it as a kid. I became obsessed after my first live show. You know, I think I watched it on TV for like 4 years before I went to an actual event. And then once the live event happened, it was something that I wanted to do forever, you know?
Well, you know something, Rick. I mean, again, that's one of those where when you get the opportunity to go, I mean, I remember, and again, the first 2 events that I can really remember that I ever got to go to, one was the first ever WrestleFest, which was held here in St. Louis, which the big to-do was they were talking about it was the first casket match that the WWF at the time was bringing forward. Was the Ultimate Warrior taking on the Undertaker. And again, when you have the open air at the Old Busch Stadium, which I mean was a circular venue, and I mean it was packed. I mean it was pretty close. I want to say about 30,000 people in an open air venue. And then of course you would be remiss, Starrcade 90. right here in St. Louis, where they had the Pat O'Connor Memorial Tournament. And we won't talk about the whole Black Scorpion thing. That's another thing for another time. I mean, again, there's a lot of different podcasts that go with that avenue. But my next question is this, and again, I just want to look at it from a perspective of being a longtime fan like I am. When you first started really getting into it, you talked about going to your first live event and kind of getting into it. Who were the wrestlers that you really grew up following?
It's funny because you guys were just talking about this guy a second ago. The immortal Hulk Hogan was. I was a Hulkamaniac as a child. Of course, as I grew up, I started to like a little, guys that were a little bit more technical and that could actually get out there and weren't as showman as like him. Or gimmicky, I guess you could say. It was like, I got started into, I loved Roddy Piper, and then I discovered Arn Anderson, and Arn became, he's still to this day, between him and Chris Benoit, two of my absolute favorite professional wrestlers.
Well, you know something, Rick, and again, knowing my luck, I'm going to go here and look. I got to find it. Yes, I do. You want to talk about Arn Anderson? And it's kind of hard to get nowadays by getting it in print. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to read this book. If you haven't, you can get a chance to be on Amazon or eBay or any other form of website to purchase things. A great read. I mean, again, it's one of those where it talks about his career. And again, a great read about Arn Anderson. And again, that's one of those I grew up with. I've had many a conversation. My brother was a longtime professional wrestler as well. And one of his big favorites was Harley Race. And I mean, again, to me, it was kind of like, when you go to Harley Race was no nonsense. He was out there and he was going to let you know how it was. Arn Anderson did a lot of that when Harley Race kind of was, I don't want to say the twilight of his career, but definitely was in the later stages of his career. Arn would go out there, he could wrestle anybody, and he would bring it to him each and every time. And again, growing up being 5-6 years old and sitting on my grandmother's carpet in Piedmont, Missouri, watching Georgia Championship Wrestling and seeing Arn Anderson go out there when he was tag teaming with Ole Anderson, that was without question one of the best times because you knew when he hit that spine buster, that was it. Spine buster, boom. It was all she wrote there. But speaking of which, again, I want to turn things over to my broadcast colleague, the maestro Jeremy Karp. I know that he's got a lot of questions on his mind here. We've got the Professor Rick Del Santo right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. So, Jeremy, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you.
Okay, so Rick or Professor, I have to say, what got you to starting Pro Wrestling Wire? We see your work on there all the time. I actually was just reading earlier your update in regards to Corey Graves and everything going on with him and his interesting storyline going on with WWE. But I wanted to get your take on what Pro Wrestling Wire really is and what it means to you for your connection with it.
It was a friend originally started the website probably 2 years ago and then just dropped out, went missing. So I relaunched it 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago, with Lewis Carlin, who has contributed to many of the larger websites around, and tremendous writer. And it just meant a lot to me because I had a lot of support from him and just trying to continue just writing about professional wrestling. And it's always been something I really wanted to do, is be involved on that level, whether it be writing, podcasting. I was involved in, I think I spoke with Luke when we were doing the podcast a few weeks back, that I was very involved in the radio for many years. And that's, one thing the radio and podcasting just led into me pretty much being part of this website and then eventually taking over ownership of it.
Okay. So my next question I have to ask, you are a digital creator. You can find your, whether it's web work, broadcasting, commentating, all around. What are your humble roots as far as where that journey began?
I was involved in community radio for many, many years. I had a nice radio show. Me and a buddy of mine, we played like lots of obscure rock and roll records, from the 60s and 70s. and stuff like that. And
Okay.
and then found out the show was ending because he was moving to California and radio station didn't really want to carry it anymore. And then I had the opportunity to go on this and that, blah, 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 a couple more times after that. And with, as I'd be invited by certain, radio station, community radio stations to do like one-offs and stuff like that and fill-ins. And then I hadn't been doing it for many, many years. And I said, I think I want to get back involved in radio. And then I was kind of searching for community radio station, and it was going to be basically a music-based show. And I have to owe it to former WWE star, WCW Tag Team Champion, member of the Four Horsemen, Paul Roma, who got me, he probably unknowingly got me into podcasting about professional wrestling because I ran into him one day at a gas station on my way into work. And then I said, you know what, as I was trying to still continue to launch this show, I said I started following his company, the independent company that him and Mario Mancini run here. And I just decided like a few days later, I'm going to do a wrestling podcast. And it just kind of like went kind of crazy right there. It was kind of like right before the pandemic, then the pandemic hit. And then during the pandemic, it just went crazy. I created probably, almost 300 episodes during that time period, that short, few years, just because I was bored during the day and kept doing stuff daily. Me and a group of kids would do, we do retro reviews. We'd cover whatever was on TV. We'd do interviews with local indie stars that nobody was doing anything during that time period. You know what I mean? Nobody was allowed to do anything. Everything was shut down. So one thing kind of led to another, and I became pretty friendly, going to indie events after that with a lot of guys, and eventually just kind of was asked by a company one day because of my podcasting experience and my radio experience if I wanted to try it out. And then one thing led to another. It's 6 years later, and I'm having a blast,
Okay. Awesome. I apologize. So what's going on is it is probably negative 40 degrees here in the St. Louis area, and I really think that is starting to mess with some sort of wires and Wi-Fi and everything. So if it's laggy, that is my apologies. I do want to say, coming from somebody who's also had a lifelong experience with communications, broadcasting, written journalism, is there one in particular as far as the written form or actually doing radio / podcasting that you get more fulfillment out of, or is it actually an even playing field for you?
I really enjoy the podcasting, but it got tiring, and the radio got tiring. I still tremendously enjoy it, but actually I have to say that I haven't done it in a few weeks. It's been kind of like hectic around here, busy, but I've been continuing and just trying to build the site. I really love doing both, and I hadn't written for quite a few years actually until the site was launched, and then I relaunched it, however many months ago, and I'm really enjoying the writing and having a blast doing that, so it's just, it's very exciting to me to be able to do
awesome.
That. Yeah.
Okay, well, before I pass it back to my good friend Luke Roberts,
all right, we're gonna see right here. I think that Jeremy has finally.
And I know.
Nope, he's good now.
Oh, can you hear me now? We good?
Yeah, you're good. You went radio silent again.
I was gonna say that. Did I? Okay. Well, like I said, it's getting rough on this end. But I was gonna say on Saturday, February 15th, Coliseum Pro Wrestling is presenting Redemption 2025. And It's actually one thing that I love. It's on WON Sports. So tell us a little bit about WON Sports and the relationship with Coliseum Pro Wrestling.
WON Sports, and I have to thank Matt Classic from the AIWF actually for hooking me up with WON Sports. Great guy though. Shout out to Matt. I heard that they were looking for content, and initially I was doing a 2-hour wrestling talk show on there, and which was me interviewing people and talking news, and then eventually I kind of just went down to an hour, and they needed more content, and I work for Coliseum. I've been the commentator since. I mean, they didn't have any commentators. For the first year, they didn't broadcast or record anything. So about a year in, they asked me if I wanted to go ahead and do it, and I said, hell yeah. I had worked for the bookers before, so for another company they had done, and we just started taking all the tapings that they'd done and breaking them up into 30-minute shows. And then, Jonathan over at WON, is a great guy. He's really cares about television and old school style television. He wants to, the tagline is television like it used to be. And so Saturday is a huge wrestling block, which I'd have to say, not to toot my own horn, I've probably gotten probably about 4 or 5 different wrestling shows on the channel for other groups out of New England. And basically, guys that were looking for stuff, and he was looking for content. So I said, hey, I know this guy. He's always looking for content. And one thing led to another, and I had a show called WON Ringside, which is kind of similar to, this is something Luke and I spoke about. Remember, Pro Wrestling This Week with Bill Apter and back in the Joe Pedicino. It was similar to that. I had the agreement between myself and other independent organizations that did not have enough content or would let me use matches to show one match here, one match there, exclusive interview type things, and such. And a lot of it actually still featured me on commentary, because it would have been shows that maybe they didn't run so regularly, maybe less than once a month or once bi-monthly. So they didn't have enough to do necessarily like a 30-minute television broadcast. So I would use matches here and there from different companies. And there's and then I have a bunch of companies that also agreed to let me use the footage and stuff like that. And that was a show that was just really awesome to me, that I really love doing it. Right now it's put on the back burner because it just kind of ran out of footage and I don't have a lot to do, but it will be returning very soon. And WON is just an amazing place.
I'm so glad to hear that. That is fantastic. Luke, I'm going to pass it on to you, my friend.
Well, Jeremy, I know for a fact you've been having a lot of those lag issues here as we've been going on here. And again, that's the joys of technology as it is that's going on here. But now, Rick, as we talked about earlier before, you talked about who you kind of grew up idolizing, being a fan. Now, you talk about all these different things that you've done, whether it's being a podcaster, a radio DJ, or being a part of a program. Would you say there's anybody in particular from a commentary perspective that you have modeled yourself after? I mean, again, I know my brother, when I was growing up, he was a mobile DJ. And it's one of those where when you do things like that, you always you take a little bit from this but radio personality. You take this from a little bit. Oh, I saw this. Is there anybody that you really took anything from or really kind of modeled yourself after?
In the beginning, no. I was just trying to get through the show. The first show, mind you, I had been involved in radio for quite some time, and then doing commentary, I was nervous as heck until that first bell went off. But then it's just like, and I cringed at listening to myself commentating over at wrestling for at least the first couple of years. Once I started doing that and I started paying attention and studying guys like Bill Mercer, Bob Caudle, Lance Russell. I've been compared to Lance Russell because I only have one tone of voice, so I don't really get very emotional in a sarcastic kind of way, I guess. So, it's there's a lot of those old school guys like that really influenced me and my style, and that I still sit there and go back and study what can I use? I even started using Bob Cottle's sign off, "So long for now," at the end of each broadcast these days. So he's been one of my favorites. So yeah.
Well, you know something, Rick, when I spent many a year doing commentary, and I'll be perfectly honest, one of them I always found to be very memorable to me was the late Gordon Soley, and I would always look at trying to make an adaptation of "So Long" from Sunshine State. And it's one of those where, I mean, when you talk about professional wrestling, I mean, again, there's many a style you can take. I mean, you can take that slow, smooth delivery like a Lance Russell, like a Bob Caudle, like a Gordon Soley. But then again, even some people might say a Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he might raise his voice a little bit, but you didn't get a lot. But then you got a lot of people that could be like a Michael Cole, like a Pat McAfee, like a I'm just trying to think of some other ones that are out there right now. And of course, now they're all gonna go away. But I mean, when it comes down to it, everybody has their own little niche. Everybody has their own little thing that makes them unique, if you will. And my question to you is this. I mean, again, we talked about it earlier on here in the program. One of the big things we talked about was the idea of if we just heard in I know your website, Pro Wrestling Wire, talked about it as well. The working agreement now between the WWE and TNA. And we saw, as of the last event, that we had Jordan Grace has basically, from our understanding, has fulfilled her dates. So one would figure she's going to the WWE. Josh Alexander is another one. We know right now that throws a big question mark on somebody like Joe Hendry, who really did it. But my question to you is, talking about the contemporary world of pro wrestling here for a minute, what are your thoughts about how professional wrestling has been changing? Because, I mean, again, we grew up on the idea of where, in most cases, you watched this particular brand and that was it. If you were a WWF guy or a WWF guy, that was what you were. If you watched the Chase was yours. If you were a Texas guy, Texas was yours. It was Tampa, if it was Portland, if it was San Francisco. I mean, everybody had their own little area. But my question is, how do you take the wrestling scene now with all these working agreements and now seeing almost like the potential for super shows on a weekly basis?
It's amazing. It really is. It's something that did not happen when we were growing up in the 1980s into the 90s. I never thought I'd see one-offs on a WWF television like the way we are now, or a working agreement with another company like TNA, which to me, it's only going to better both products, having those kinds of relationships. It's amazing. This is something that wrestling fans probably dreamed of their entire life, agreements like that. AEW, New Japan, and CMLL all working together. It's amazing. There's just the limits. There's no limits. It's just as what can happen in the world of professional wrestling right now. And it just keeps getting more and more insanely good at what's going on.
Well, one thing you talk about too there, Rick, you were talking about the AEW network of promotions. I mean, I go back to talking about Wrestle Dynasty, and you had, I believe it was ROH, CMLL, it was ROH, CMLL, I believe it was AEW, and Stardom. I believe was all four in that single women's match.
Right.
And I mean, again, it's just the idea to see all these big name promotions coming together and being able to have these kind of matches. It's just unreal. I mean, and again, I look at it from perspective. Would you have ever imagined going to a Vince McMahon Sr. or a Sam Muchnick or a Don Owen or a Fritz Von Erich and say this was going to happen? I don't even want to know what their reaction would have been. They probably would have been you would have been run out of the building as quickly as humanly possible. But I mean, again, it's just one of those that nowadays with the professional wrestling scene as it is, it's giving wrestling fans a lot of great things, but it's also making wrestling must-see television again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's not a day now that goes by, and I think you and I have talked about it in the past, there's not wrestling on there's no chance of not watching wrestling. There's wrestling on 7 days a week, and each and every night you have multiple shows to choose from in most cases, whether it be some streaming service that'll air it live on like Triller or IWTV or what have you, and anything that's on cable against anything that's on cable. I mean, sometimes IWTV has 3 or 4 streams to choose from just on their one platform. And it's wild to think about, because sometimes it leaves the fan like, what am I going to watch? The other night I was watching on my laptop GCW and watching the TNA pay-per-view all at the same time. I was having a blast watching both shows, and that was like, it's just kind of amazing now.
Well, I gotta ask, you brought it up. You talked about GCW and the TNA pay-per-view, and it was one of the things we were going to get to earlier on in the program, but it's one of those things that really kind of popped in. And Jeremy, hopefully you got your technology issues. Hopefully the Wi-Fi has gotten a little bit better, but one of the big things that's really been kind of blowing up the internet as of late was a situation at a GCW event with one PCO. How do we say, taking a page out of the late Kurt Hennig's playbook and trying to destroy the TNA Digital Media Championship. I got to ask you, I mean, first of all, for me, when I saw that, I'm like, that was sheer brilliance, because it's something that really hasn't been done in years upon years. But in this day and age, do you feel there's going to be any ramifications or repercussions from that?
From what's going on now, I'm not sure. I have no idea what's going on still. There's still, PCO claims that he's got a lot more to say. And TNA has they've been somewhat quiet about it, I guess, because the only thing they said that was PCO had a replica of the belt, and he could pretty much on his Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, scoffed, basically saying that why would I have a replica belt? So I just find it amazing. At first, I wasn't sure that what was going on, because they cut the feed, and I thought wow, that was weird, So I wasn't sure if it was 100% real, legit, or if it was just part of the show. And the internet started blowing up over it, within minutes and stuff like that. So apparently, it's pretty legit. It sounds like he was unhappy, according to his, Twitter. He's been kind of posting about it for a couple days now, and it's just the guy's surely he's immensely talented. I've been watching him for 30 some odd years. It's between the Quebecers and all the way through today, and he's been around a long time. It's kind of one of those things, can he do what he wants kind of a thing? I don't know. Or did he just kind of burned the bridge with TNA, but I don't think he cares, really. You know what I mean? He's at that age. He's probably near retirement. I mean, the guy's almost 60, maybe, out of retirement. And it's just, I don't know, man. I found it insane, because I wasn't sure what was going on, if it was real at first, but then I just found it to be completely insane when the internet started blowing up over it and reading his tweets throughout the next couple of days.
Well, one thing too, Rick, I mean, again, we talk about that. You have to admit that the internet, and again, this is strange talking about it in 2025, knowing for us, I mean, we've been having really to kind of watch this pop into play for probably 30 years when it came to the world of professional wrestling. But you got to admit, the if anything happens in the world of professional wrestling, people are going to know about it in seconds.
Absolutely.
And it's what, I mean, technology has made for a wonderful thing. I mean, I remember the first time I saw anything about it was the old style fan cam, somebody taking out their cell phone and we're kind of aiming it towards the ring and managed to show that first shot where the hammer actually hit the center plate of the championship. And I'm like, oh my.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, that's the joys of pro wrestling in 2025. Now, I'm going to take a minute here. And we have Rick Del Santo here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Again, hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling, hashtag WTP. My question here is this, and I just want to throw this out here to you. Right now, as you know, I mean, it's getting to a point in the world of professional wrestling that you can catch it anywhere. But one of the big things right now is the WWE. And I actually, of all people, I had a discussion with somebody who really has been around wrestling almost as long as I have, and I'm gonna give a shout out to her. It's my own wife. She's been around my entire career, and we talked about it once, and it was to the point of where the WWE is almost getting to a point that they have something every week.
Yeah.
Whether it's on Peacock or it's on live broadcast television or things along those lines. My question to you in 2025, is that too much content for one product?
For somebody, it's, for somebody that writes for a website, it's extremely hard to keep up with everything. I'm lucky that I have, a couple other people that are there with me helping write. Is it too much content? It could be, stressful. I mean, it's stressful during the Monday Night Wars, you know what I mean? Watching during that era. And a lot of people just kind of dropped off for a while because I guess they got tired of it. I try to watch, like I said, I watch wrestling almost every day of the week. I'm a wrestling fan. My wife's a reality TV fan. Kind of just watch different shows at the same time. I was like, geez, it kind of felt kind of ridiculous watching wrestling every single day of the week. But I'm like, yeah, she's watching reality TV. It's kind of similar in a way. Is it too much? It might be. It might be tiring for certain people. There's certain guys like journalists and stuff like that. They got to keep up with it. And I'm sure it's very tiring trying to keep up on God knows what, everything. It's WWE seems to be building big events each and every week. Like this weekend, there's Saturday night's main event. Again, they just had one just a few weeks ago. So it seems like they're trying to bring it back as like a semi-regular series on the weekends when they're not running PLEs. That's the way it seems to me, at least. They're giving them away free on Peacock, free on NBC. So, and they seem to be enjoyable. I enjoyed the last one. I didn't think it was like fantastic, but I enjoyed it for the most part. I enjoyed a lot of the nostalgia as well.
Well, Rick, I'm going to throw this out here. And Jeremy, I know that you just came back and joined us. The Maestro Jeremy Karp from Interstate 70 Sports Media, Wrestle Talk Podcast, countless other forms of the media as well. I know in the media department meeting, we did have one of our things we talk about current events is called the High Spot segment. And what I want to do real quick, and we'll see here if Jeremy can actually pull up the graphic. We were talking earlier on about Saturday night's main event. And one of the things we have here, Jeremy, if you could pull up, we actually have a graphic of the 4 matches that are scheduled to take place this coming Saturday night. And gentlemen, I want to kind of go ahead, all 3 of us being broadcast journalists, as the late Bobby the Brain Heenan would say, which one of these 4 matches? And again, I'm not gonna throw out there the contract signing with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. Which one of these 4 matches intrigues you the most? And Jeremy, I'm going to go ahead and start with you here. Which one of these 4 matches is the one that intrigues you most this Saturday night at Saturday night's main event?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go with Gunther versus Jey Uso, and if I had to have a second one, it would be Braun Breaker versus Sheamus. But I'm going to go Gunther versus Jey Uso because Jey Uso's got a great high-flying style, very quick and agile. Meanwhile, Gunther is very grounded, very technical, mat-oriented. And to me, you hear the old saying, sometimes opposites attract. Well, I think in this type of match, it will. And I'm very excited to see. I mean, look, I've loved Gunther's reign as World Heavyweight Champion. I think that they are not, what's the word? Okay, he's on the mountaintop, but they're not over pushing him. And with Jey Uso, we know how over Jey Uso is, and we know how extremely talented both wrestlers are. I think this will be a show stealer. It'll be a great time. I look at the card as a whole, and I don't see anything that I'd be disappointed in. I think it'll overall be a very good Saturday night's main event. But if I had to go with one match that to me sticks out and I would have the highest enjoyment out of, hopefully, it would be Gunther versus Jey Uso.
Very, very well said, Maestro. Professor, I want you to go ahead and give us your thoughts. There are 4 great matches here on the plate for this coming Saturday night. Which one of these most intrigued you?
I think Braun Breaker and Sheamus is going to be just a hard-hitting, really well put together match, kind of like watching the Steiner brothers, for lack of a better term. You know, I just think it's going to be really good. They've had some battles back and forth where they've just hit hard, and it's kind of one of those things where you're just like, ugh, God, that's brutal. And that's what I'm looking forward to in this match. I just think it's going to be a really good, hard-hitting match. Gunther and Jey Uso, not the world's biggest Jey Uso fan. However, don't think he's the world's greatest professional wrestler. Gunther, on the other hand, to me, is probably one of the best professional wrestlers going today. I think he might be able to pull something out of Jey Uso and put on probably like match of the year candidate.
Ooh. That's something that surprises me. I mean, I'm a level with you here. I'm just gonna kind of summarize all 4. I almost want to say Braun Breaker versus Sheamus and Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu. They strike me as hard-hitting matchups. They strike me as the same kind of idea of you're just going to be sitting there going, ooh, and you know they're going to feel it the next morning. To me, I think the match that really intrigues me the most is actually going to be Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax. And the reason why is because while I agree that Gunther and Jey Uso is going to be a good matchup, I think that just how in the last couple weeks that the story has been presented between Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax, and you got to give a shout out here because Bayley put a little bit into that. You have Roxanne Perez, who I really foresee making the jump to the main roster here sooner rather than later. But I think this is going to be one of those where they've both got power, but they're both deceptively quick. And I think it's going to be one of those where I think when it comes down to it, this is going to be the first match of a lot of matches between the two of them. And right now, I'm really hoping, and again, we all know what we've heard as relates to Nia Jax, but when it comes down to, I really think when it comes down to it, this has the potential of being another great series of matches, much like, and I know the Maestro is going to be kind of shocked, kind of like with me with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. I genuinely enjoyed those matchups because of the fact that you didn't know what to expect next, and just when you thought things couldn't go any different, then they would invest in Raquel Rodriguez. And I have a feeling, like I said, right now, this whole situation between these two is going to continue on, and that was the one for that's going to be the one for me. So now, real quick here, Jamie, if you want to go ahead and take away our graphic here for just a minute. As we said, we got the Professor and the Maestro and Luke Roberts here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Now, Rick, I'm a level with you. I did try my best to keep you in the know, but one of the things here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, and the Maestro is fairly good with it. One of the things we have here at the Wrestle Talk podcast is a little thing called the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Yes. It's an opportunity for our guests to have a competition, a friendly competition against one of our hosts. In this case, it'll be the Maestro. So, I mean, again, that's kind of where we're at. But what we're looking at is before we started the show, I picked a particular wrestling topic. You don't know. Maestro doesn't know. But it has something related to the both of you. My question to you is, are you up for the challenge here tonight, Mr. Del Santo, to take on the Maestro Jeremy Carp in the game show challenge?
Why not?
All right, Maestro, are you ready?
At this point, I don't really got a choice.
Hey, you know how it is when you work with me here on the Wrestle Talk podcast.
I've been doing this with you for about 10 years now. So how many game show challenges have I ended up doing? And let me tell you, Professor, it has been different every single time. Luke does his research. He does a hell of a job putting these together.
All right.
And you heard it. So right now, let's go ahead and hit our intro music. And actually, Maestro, if you could actually hit the video intro, I believe that's still in the in the network, the video intro for the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Let's go ahead and hit it and see if we can actually get it to broadcast here this evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hardcore Nintendo vibes, like NES vibes. That is awesome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to this week's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Our two contestants this evening are the Professor, Rick Del Santo from ProWrestlingWire.net, and from Interstate 70 Sports Media and the Wrestle Talk Podcast, the one and only the Maestro, Jeremy Karp. Tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 falls. Now, the rules are simple. I'm going to give you information about 3 professional wrestling personalities. They all have a common theme. When you think you know who the individual is, you shout out who you think it is. The first one to get 2 out of 3 falls wins tonight's game show challenge. Do you understand the rules, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
All right. In honor of the fact that both of you not only are very knowledgeable in professional wrestling, but you're also both broadcasters, tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge is professional wrestling broadcasters. I will give you information about 3 famous professional wrestling broadcasters. When you think you know the answer, go ahead and shout out your answer. The first one to get 2 out of 3 correct is tonight's winner. Maestro, are you ready?
Yep.
Professor, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Rude.
Question number 1. This broadcaster is a WWE Hall of Famer. He has won countless championships. That is correct. The last part of the question was going to be he had his WrestleMania moment against Michael Cole.
Oh,
that being Jerry
glad
Lawler.
I answered right away to save the trouble of that part go in the air.
All right. Well, gentlemen, it's 1 fall to nothing, care of the Maestro. Are we ready for the second fall?
Yep.
All right. Here is the second fall. This individual has broadcast events in his career for MLW, Chikara, and Evolve. He is also the first individual and only individual to call a live pay-per-view solo.
Joey Styles.
No.
The second fall goes to the Maestro.
Wait, really?
Yep. He is the only broadcaster to call an entire pay-per-view.
I'll be honest.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, we still got a third fall. I know for a fact that you're not going to get swept on this one, Rick. I think you have enough here to know what's there. So, gentlemen, here we go with the third fall.
Okay.
This individual has been around professional wrestling for nearly 25 years. He spent time as a competitor in such promotions as Pro Wrestling 01, the NWA, and the International Wrestling Cartel. He is a former NXT Tag Champion and a former WWE 24/7 Champion. Most recently, he has been known for his comments on Twitter. Name him.
Wait.
I have no idea.
When I think of a WWE tag team, no, that can't.
01. That's got me. I'm stuck on the 01 part. Like,
is it? No, it isn't.
Many people also are aware now of his relationship with Carmella.
Corey Graves.
Ladies and gentlemen, the third fall does go to the Professor, but as we look at the scoreboard by a score of 2 falls to 1, the Maestro manages to get the victory here tonight on the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. I say gotta give him a second, Rick, because of the fact that he doesn't get to win too many of these game show
I
challenges.
don't get any wins, so we are cherishing this.
He was too fast for me, so that's what it was.
Well, like I said, I mean, again, it wasn't a sweep. We had a good time with that. Now, Rick, before we let you go here this evening, first of all, I want to ask you. I know you've got a Coliseum Pro Wrestling event that's going to be coming up here in the upcoming weeks. Can you share with the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast who are in the greater Connecticut area, the greater Northeast area, what all to expect at Coliseum Pro?
This is February 15th. It's a Saturday night. I got that right in front of me. Tickets $20. It's let's see, it's at the West Haven Elks, West Haven, Connecticut, 265 Main Street. It's a wonderful building. It's renamed the WON Studios while we're recording. All right, just about during recording purposes. We got the CPW tag team titles: Sunset Steve Garcia and Anytime Alambano taking on Hustle and Muscle. Hustle and Muscle just celebrated a year of holding the CPW tag team titles, and congrats to them. They're great guys there. And we have, let's see, I got another one here. We have in a rematch from the last show, the Devilish Angel Daje Simone taking on Killer J. And I was just informed that you guys are getting some exclusive news. As soon as I can bring it up here on my computer.
Let's go ahead here real quick here. Jeremy, can you hit that breaking news sounder? We're getting breaking news here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. We're always prepared, Rick. Hold on 1 second here. Come on, Jeremy. Breaking news here from Coliseum Pro Wrestling and the professor, Rick Del Santo. Rick, go ahead and share your breaking news.
We're going to be having qualifying matches for the opportunity for the four-way for the opportunity for success, which is basically a you get the briefcase. You win, you get the briefcase. You can cash it in any time during the year. It's the
Money in the Bank.
Yeah, the success. Yeah. See, I messed it up. See.
Well, you know something though, Rick? We got to look at, and I've heard on good authority that Coliseum Pro really has been kind of looking through the roster, looking through the wins and the losses to see who those four individuals were going to be. Can you go ahead and share those? Kind of say, I know a lot of our viewers are going to be very interested to see who's going to get a chance at that opportunity.
That I have that has not been named, at least to me yet. It has not been named. I actually asked the powers that be at CPW for any information I could share here today. They just told me that there's going to be qualifying matches, but they have not announced them yet, and I don't think they really know. But I'm looking forward to it because every time the opportunity for success match is just an amazing match. Every 4 years in a row, we're going on 4 years. It's always been kind of one of those best matches of the show type things. It's exciting. So there's that. If I can mention one more show coming up this coming weekend. I'm not on this show, but I do have buddies there. Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling is hosting an event this week, New Year's Resolution, and there's going to be a Hall of Fame ceremony prior to the show starting at 5 o'clock where one of my best friends, the Beast of New England, Bull Dread, is getting inducted into the into the Paradise Alley Hall of Fame. And there's just going to be some really great wrestling action on the show. Alan Compass is going to be there. I believe Brad Baylor might be there, WWEID prospect. There's going to be a lot more coming up. You can go over to Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling on Facebook and check it out. They got a great roster over there. All students trained by Paul Roma and Mario Mancini. And, of course, you can check out ProWrestlingWire.net for any upcoming stuff. I cover all the independent stuff in my area on the website as well.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you get an opportunity, ProWrestlingWire.net, I know there's a lot of people who as of late have been wanting to contribute several names that are very familiar to the Wrestle Talk podcast family. And again, it's very quickly becoming a one-stop shop for everything professional wrestling related. And again, not only do you have the opportunity to find out great information, but they also have their own podcast with the one and only Professor Rick Del Santo. A lot of great interviews there. They just had Vinnie Barry from Russellville has been on the program. They had Bobby Blaze. We were talking about that at the top of the show. I believe you had did you have Tommy Mancini on the program?
Tommy Mancini. No, I had recently I had Bob Cook on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I had Mario Savoldi on the show last year, that was kind of a dream interview for me. There's going to be a lot more stuff coming up. It's been kind of on a hiatus ever since that massive week where I did a ton of interviews, which you were a part of, Luke. So It's been kind of on a hiatus. It's coming back, though, and I have some more news that I'd like to share with you guys that Pro Wrestling Wire is going to be getting a 1-hour daily radio show. So check that out. That's going to be, we're going to be talking news and having short interviews. Vinnie Barry is going to be contributing to the show. Vinnie Barry is an awesome person from Russellville. Great author. If you haven't read his Lance Von Erich book or his Black Bart book, rest in peace, Black Bart.
Hold on one second here. Hold on one second, Rick.
Goes out there and gets them.
I got to go back through my list here and see, because I know, when you talk about Vinnie Barry, you talk about Lance by Chance, available at WrestleVille.com.
Yep, great book. Great book. If anybody's got the chance to go check that out. You got to check out his Black Bart book, too. We just lost Bart about a week ago? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's about a week ago.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and Vinny is the author of his book. They wrote the book together, and it came out at just a few months ago. So I highly recommend people that love that old school wrestling, love world class wrestling. Vinny's from Texas, a huge world class man, so he has that access and knowledge of guys from that area. And so he got to sit down and write with Lance. He got to sit down and write with Bart. So he's put out two really good books in that manner. He's put out 2 short story books as well, where they have short bios of lots of great wrestlers, whether it be Bobby Eaton or Harley Race or who have you. And those books are really good to check out too. So go over to he contributes to ProWrestlingWire.net. He's actually written for us in the past, trying to coax him into coming back because I think he's just such an awesome author as well.
And you know something, Rick? I mean, again, Vinnie Barry, definitely a great guy to go with. And I know he's been working on some things, talking about local independent promotions throughout the country as well. Yeah. When you talk about somebody who really has a great knowledge of wrestling, not just in a particular area, but across the country, Vinnie Barry, to me, falls in the same class with people like the likes of John Cosper over at EatSleepWrestle.com, another friend of the program as well, who's had a lot of different books published about the Louisville area and things along the line.
Right.
But again, if you get a point, check out Russellville. Vinnie Barry, a lot of great books. Also check out ProWrestlingWire.net for all the wrestling info that you could ever want and need. Make it a point, check it out. Rick Del Santo, the professor, is over there. Rick, I can officially say this now. First, I want to say thank you for coming on the program. I can now officially say, with no hesitation, without any reservation, you are now officially a part of the Wrestle Talk podcast family. And not only do we look forward to having you come on the program again soon, I know we talked about it in your previous interview. The invitation's open. If you want to make the journey halfway across this country in June, Sunday afternoon, June 22nd, Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, full well, but there's the Wrestle Talk podcast family and the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame will be more than willing to have you and be a part of the weekend's festivities.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Professor Rick Del Santo here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Guys, I got to tell you, from top to bottom, it's been a great show. Even when the maestro decides he's going to go ahead and vanish off the screen, but that's okay. Like I said, we want to go ahead.
I heard that.
I know you heard that. But like I said, real quick here, before we wrap things up here this evening, let's go ahead and if you can go ahead and throw up the graphics of our sponsors here. They always see the sponsors here on the bottom on the ticker as we go along here, just like ESPN. But I want to go ahead and show the graphics here this evening and thank all of our great sponsors. And again, I want to give a shout out here to the Retro Zone. You want to have a gaming experience, check out the Retro Zone in the Kansas City area. Also want to thank Painter's Dream Productions. Big Daddy P is a very big part of Painter's Dream Productions. Make it a point to check them out if you need any kind of web design taken care of. The Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, proud sponsor of the Wrestle Talk podcast. And again, Sunday, June 22nd. For more information, check them out online. Interstate 70 Sports Media, home of Roundabout Sports, which you can catch tomorrow night live on all your great media outlets. And of course, Little Popeye Designs, some of those great Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers. If you want to purchase one, I've heard the numbers are running low. If you want to purchase your Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers, these are a lot like the Wrestle Talk podcast mugs we had in the past. Once that original shipment's done, there aren't going to be any more, and you need to make sure you order your mug as quickly as you can. And also, last but certainly not least, we want to thank the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. Ladies and gentlemen, from top to bottom, it's been a great show. A lot of great topics here. We had Snippets of Truth. We had the FWWC. And, of course, we got to spend close to the last hour with the Professor Rick Del Santo. Guys, I got to tell you, it's been a great night. Everything has been wonderful. We got all the technology issues taken care of. It was one of those that a hiccup in the start, but it flowed. And again, it's been a great night. Jeremy, before we go, as you do each and every week, can you go ahead real quick and share out that last piece of information before we wrap up tonight's show?
Absolutely. All right, folks. I do this every week on Roundabout Sports, and we do this every week on the Wrestle Talk podcast. We always put up at the bottom of our screen the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And for that, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you're never alone in this world. There's always somebody out there who loves you, who cares about you, who wants nothing but the best for you. There is a lot going on in this world. A lot of people, a lot of change. Everybody goes through different struggles every single day. And your struggles are valid. Your stress is valid. Your mental health is valid. But it doesn't mean that you should deal with it alone. There's always somebody out there. And you are just a phone call, a text message, an appointment away from getting that help that could be very well life-saving. And you could be the listening ears and watchful eyes for somebody in need as well. So you never know. But we just need a lot more love in this world and understand that you are never alone.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the maestro Jeremy Karp sharing that information with us each and every week here. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our show for this week. Make it a point, check us out on social media and check us out on all the great media outlets. We want you to check us out on YouTube, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, on Twitch, you name it. You can catch up the Wrestle Talk podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, for myself, I am Luke Skywalker Roberts. Sitting alongside me this evening, the maestro Jeremy Karp and the one, the only, the Professor Rick Del Santo. We will see you right back here with the next episode of the Wrestle Talk podcast. Take care, be safe, and stay warm, everybody.